Hi everyone, welcome back to another gameplay of Infinitode 2. So in this video, I'm gonna show you guys one of the most basic aspects of the game that I've realized I've never actually covered, and that's why some of you have asked me in the comments. And that is the basic stats, like what are the basic stats, how they work, and how they affect the towers. And now in order to show you this, I'm gonna go into this, that is my new account. I have a full series where I show the full progress, like from 0 to completing and maxing Endless, and especially the Endless Research, where your towers get super strong and you have low frequency, low rarity. So if you guys haven't checked out that series, I recommend you to go watch them. I also give a lot of different tips throughout the series as well. So yeah, I hope they're gonna be useful. And now I have created this custom map so that I can show you guys what are the stats and how they affect the towers and how they work, and especially the platforms, because I've never actually covered and done a video where I just explain which platforms are going to be better for which towers. All right, so that's why I'm going to do it. And now stats are the core of the game, right? Because the stats is just something that is gonna eventually determine how good or how bad a certain tower is, and how attacks and how affects the game. Now I'm not gonna go through the detail of every single tower, because I've already done a tutorial video for each tower. So once again, I recommend to go watch the playlist if you haven't. But here I'm going to just comment about how these numbers are applied and how they work, right? So that's what I'm going to do in this video. And now the 5 most basic stats that you're going to find on most towers are going to be range, damage, attack speed, rotation speed, and projectile speed. Now range is classified, as you can see here, in tiles. And now tiles are these small squares. So if I click here on the road item, see this square? This is considered one tile, and you can find right here the coordinates. All right, so each of these squares is what the game calls one tile. So when the game says here that my basic has 3.92 tiles range, that means that starting from the very center of the tower, that is where the 0 is, right? So the very center of the tower, and you go towards the right side in this case, all right, and you try to calculate the radius. This range is like the radius of the tower. So because it starts at the half, at the center, you have already half tile here. Therefore here you have 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and then you almost have another half, because it's almost 4 tiles, right? So almost reaching the other 0 here, and that's the range. And that's when you create the circle that becomes the range in which the tower can attack the enemies. So that's it. That's how the range is classified. That's how it's counted. Damage is a flat number. And this damage, this number here, is always multiplied first to this number here. That is the efficiency of the tower against different type of enemies. Sorry, not the efficiency, the effectiveness. And then, depending on which enemies are coming, that tower is going to do that amount of damage to the enemies. So always enemies are going to have a fixed amount of HP, depending on the portal difficulty, depending on the level, depending on the wave, and so yeah, the damage applied with each hit, in this case basic attacks with projectiles, so each projectile is going to have this damage multiplied first with this number, and then applied to the actual HP of the enemy, and that's it. Attack speed is classified, as you can see, over time, so per second. So this is the amount of projectiles that are gonna be spawning. All right, that's how it's classified. The amount of projectiles spawned from the center of the tower in 1 second. So you can see that here, this tower, my basic tower with having max endless, it's gonna be able to spawn 8.71 projectiles per second. So if there are enough enemies in its range, right, and the tower is attacking continually, is going to be able to shoot up to 8 projectiles in 1 second. So that's pretty much it. So it's pretty simple. Rotation speed instead is classified as how quickly the towers can rotate. Now each tower is going to have an axis. So you can see that all towers, when you place them, are going to look upwards. And now the rotation, so the angle that they're going to have, is very important, because the tower, if there are enemies coming from this side right here, see, that's going to be the first enemy. The tower is going to actually have to rotate in this direction, right, to be able to then attack the enemies. So towers are always going to shoot like in a straight line. There are some towers that don't do this, for example, Venom, but most towers are always going to attack, like the projectiles are going to fly straight forward. And therefore, that means that the tower first has to rotate so that the angle is going to be the same from which the enemy is coming, and then it's going to start attacking. And now how quickly you rotate in degrees, it's this number here. You can see that it's degrees over time, over seconds. And remember that doing a full circle, so starting from, I don't know, like this point here, doing all the circle and then coming back again, is 360 degrees, right? It's one full circle. So in this case, my basic tower has 662, which is almost 720. That is 2 full circles. So that means that my basic tower can rotate almost 2 full times in 1 second, if there would be enemies like coming from different directions. All right, so that's just how it's classified. Projectile speed instead is the speed at which the projectiles, starting, remember, from the center of the tower, are gonna reach the enemies. So how quickly the projectiles from the starting point are gonna reach the enemies. Normally this number is always doubled, or it's always higher than attack speed. For example, here, this is a tower that the projectile speed is not capped, because projectile speed is gonna cap always as 16 tiles per second. And you can see here, cannon has 10.6 and attack speed is 6.64. So normally projectile speed is always higher than attack speed, because that means that you're gonna have, like, the projectile is always gonna hit the enemy before, so you're not gonna have more projectiles flying than the amount of that are hitting the enemy. All right. There are some exceptions, for example, like Minigun, that doesn't have projectile speed, and so that's why like attack speed can become super high without bothering about that feature. And but yeah, this is pretty much it. Now it's tiles per second, and that means that, once again, starting from the center of the tower, how many tiles the projectile can fly per second. And you can see this case is 16. So 16 is, like, imagine, try to count here how many tiles there are, and that's the amount of distance that one projectile can cover in 1 second. So it's super high. And so those are the 5 main stats and how they work. Now there are some towers that are going to have different stats, or like unique ones. For example, Sniper, rather than having projectile speed, is going to have aiming speed. Now aiming speed is classified as a percentage over second. And remember that every time that you see here a percentage, means that it's always 100%. Like, in order to fire, you're gonna need 100%. So being higher than 100% means that you're gonna take less than 1 second to attack. All right, so the aiming speed actually requires less than a second, because 100% is gonna be reached before the full second duration. In this case, for Sniper, it's this effect that is gonna make Sniper to start aiming, right, and then attack and shoot. The damage is done instantly because there is no projectile speed. So the damage, as soon as the projectile is fired, like, it's gonna damage the enemy. There is no delay. And yeah, it's, in this case, percentage over seconds. A cannon has the same stat as basic, so no new stats. Freezing, it's a support tower. Now freezing doesn't damage enemies, and therefore you can see that you don't have damage, you don't have attack speed, and all that. You're gonna have different stats. You're gonna have stats regarding the slow. So freezing percent is the maximum percentage of slow. And remember, this is like, you have to classify it as a negative number. So suppose an enemy is moving and the normal speed of the enemies is 100%, right? It's their own speed. Now, when they are in range of freezing, This percentage here, so this number, 23.4%, is what is removed from the 100% speed of the enemy, and that's the final speed of the enemy when it's moving in range of the tower. So in this case, it's going to be 76.6. And that's the actual speed of the enemy, right? Of course, all these stats, guys, as I said before, can be increased when you upgrade the tower, when you level up. So they're not going to stay like that forever, right? So they can be increased. Instead, freezing speed is how quickly enemies are going to be reached this maximum percentage of the slow. So in this case, it's percentage over second, and therefore, once again, because it's over 100%, and yeah, you're gonna need actually here more than 2 seconds until you can reach that maximum slow. So you're gonna start slowing the enemy, but you're gonna start slowing only by 41.2% of 23.4% per second. So that means that in order to reach 23.4%, you're gonna need more than 2 seconds. I don't know exactly how much, but yeah, you're gonna need more than 2 seconds. And that's how it's applied. Now, freezing percent has a cap at 65%. Instead, freezing speed doesn't have any cap, so you can even go above 100%, and you can even reach like 200%, 300%. It doesn't really matter. And yeah, it's just it. Anti-air doesn't have any new stats. Splash has a unique stat that is accuracy, and it doesn't have a rotation speed. So the projectiles from Splash are gonna just be fired from different sides of it, and now the side from which the projectile is thrown, it depends on the accuracy. So the higher the accuracy, the more likely the projectile is gonna be thrown from the direction in which the enemy is. So the enemy is gonna be hit by that projectile. Remember, projectiles always fly in a straight line. And Blast again doesn't have rotation speed, doesn't have projectile speed, but has stun chance. Once again, a unique stat that only this tower has, and it's a percentage. And it's very easy. It's just this chance of stunning the enemy, right? Yeah, that's it. A multi-shot, nothing unique. Minigun, nothing unique, but it's not gonna have projectile speed. So you can see that, like, it doesn't have any unique stats, but it doesn't have projectile speed because the damage is instantaneous. So as soon as the tower attacks, the damage is done, is dealt. Venom as well, no new stats. Tesla has a new stat that is lightning damage, a unique one, only Tesla has. And in this case, is the percentage and how like the next enemy hit by the same chain, how much the damage is reduced. So the first enemy is always hit with maximum damage. Now the second enemy hit by that same chain, all right, is going to have instead only 76.8% of this damage. The third enemy hit is going to have 76.8% of 76.8%, and so on. So it gets progressively lower and lower and lower the more you go on until you reach the minimum. Now the minimum of the tower's damage is 20%. You can increase it up to, well, in this case for endless, 26.5%. When you have like all the extra research, but I think the minimum is 20%. Actually, it might be even lower, like it might be 15%, and I'm just confused here because this is endless. But yeah, that's just how the stat works. So this is the percentage on how much damage you lose on each subsequent enemy that you hit. A missile, same stats, no new stats. Flamethrower is the tower with the least stats in the game. It only has 3 plus the special one. So it doesn't have attack speed, it doesn't have projectile speed. Only 3. And yeah, but no unique stats. Laser has a unique stat called charging speed. And once again, it's a percentage over second. So you can see that it's once you reach 100% is when you can fire, when you can hit, with the laser. And again, this can be increased with upgrading the tower, with leveling it up, with of course the platforms, the additional stats. And I think only power actually increases charging speed. There are no other stats that can increase charging speed. So yeah, that's just it. And a Gauss, again, a very unique tower. In order to even be able to attack the enemies, you're going to have to place it close to a miner that's mining resources. And that's why one of the unique passives of Gauss is resource consumption. Also, Gauss has only 4 stats, so like Flame Tower is the tower with the least amount of stats. And what resource consumption, as it says, is the amount of resources that Gauss is gonna consume from the nearby miner when it's gonna like attack the enemies. And the more the tower levels up and the more you upgrade it, the more resources it's gonna consume. So this stat also increases over time. And finally, we have Crusher. Crusher as well has a unique stat called Duration. It doesn't have rotation speed, it doesn't have attack speed. And in this case, duration is how long Crusher is going to hold the enemies inside of it. Because Crusher, it's going to have these claws that are going to grab enemies, are going to bring them in the center of the tower, it's going to do damage. And also the other towers can damage those enemies. And how long enemies are going to be capped there is this duration. And as well as anything can be increased with the levels and with the passive levels and with the upgrade levels. And also with the abilities. And yeah, that's it. So that's a very quick overview about the actual, like all the actual towers, right? And the different stats. And now talking about the platform stats, right? We're going to have 5 different ones. So 5 levels, of the effect of the tile. And we're going to have the first one, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So they become increasingly stronger, of course. And yeah, you can find any combination depending on the levels and depending on many different things. And now power. Power is a stat that affects all stats. Right, you can find it up here on the top right side of the tower, and of course, depending on the effect of the platform, you can increase it up to 25%. Or 20%, or 15, or 10, or 5. And you can see here from 1, right, plus 25 is 26%. Now, power increases, as I said before, all the stats other than range and the special stat, so the yellow one. You can see here, basic, right, range and damage multiplier are exactly the same, but you can see the damage is higher, attack speed is higher, rotation speed is higher, and projectile speed also is higher. So yeah, this is a pretty good roundabout platform, right, where you can place all your like offensive towers and they can have pretty much a bonus on all the stats altogether. So yeah, it's just good for like offensive towers. Upgrade discount is that, well, as the name suggests, is going to decrease the cost of the upgrades. So for example, if I place here, and actually place a Gauss, right? Because Gauss, it's very expensive. So the normal cost for upgrading Gauss is 75. Now look here, if I place it at upgrade discount, even like the first one, that's only 2% discount. It's already 73. Then it becomes 72, then 70, then 69, and then the last one is gonna become 67. So see how from 75, that is the cost without any discount, it becomes then 67. So once again, this is a pretty nice upgrade for any tower that is pretty expensive. And so like Gauss, like Missile, these two are going to be the most expensive ones. Then we're going to have like Laser as well, a little bit expensive, Crusher, a Minigun, and also a little bit Sniper and Flame Tower, but not that much. So so yeah, this platform can be used for any kind of tower in case you want to save up your coins, but it's not as good as others. Now, attack speed and damage, of course, are very, very good. Attack speed is especially good for Minigun. That is a tower that really exploits a lot, having a lot of attack speed. And well, damage is the best platform because it's gonna just increase the damage of the tower. And of course, any tower can benefit from this, other than like freezing, probably Blast, because you're gonna use Blast more for the stun, for the utility, not really for the damage, and Crusher. So other than these 3 towers, like this platform having more damage is good for any other tower. And attack speed is good as well, especially for Minigun, but any tower that has attack speed benefits from this. Just be careful about placing towers that do not have attack speed here. For example, Flame Tower doesn't have attack speed, so if you place it on attack speed, it's not gonna gain anything. Or even Gauss doesn't have attack speed, and well, Freezing doesn't have attack speed, and I think that's it. No, also Laser doesn't have attack speed, so just be careful, you know, and don't waste the opportunity to place a tower and to have, you know, a good stat applied to it by placing a tower that doesn't have that stat. So just, you know, that's the only thing. Range is actually pretty good, but only for central towers, because most of your towers, the range that they have is already like pretty good to be able to like cover like a pretty good amount of the map, and so this stat becomes especially good for towers like Freezing, so you can slow in a larger area. For Blast, that has a pretty small range, so again, being able to stun in a larger area. Crusher, even like for towers like Flame Tower could also be good, but like towers that have already a lot of range, like Sniper, Tesla, Minigun, Missile, like Gauss doesn't even have range, so like it is useless for Gauss, but like it could be useful for any tower, but potentially there are better stats, right? For example, damage and attack is always better, so that's where you want to place your offensive towers. So that's why you don't want to place your offensive towers on range. You want to place like more supporting or utility towers here, because you're gonna place in your offensive towers there already. So yeah, bonus coins is something as well pretty useful utility, especially very early on, where you wanna just maximize the amount of coins that you get from destroying enemies. So the towers is placed here and kills enemies is gonna be gaining more coins from them. All right, so that's just how it works. And well, depending on the effect, right? First, second, third level, you're gonna be gaining more or less coins. And so once again, this is good for any offensive tower that you know does a lot of killing. For example, Tesla, because it deals damage very, very constantly. It's a very good early game tower because it's gonna just kill almost all the enemies, even if you have other towers. And so it's very good for that reason. Another tower that deals almost instant damage is, it's Minigun as well, and Flame Tower, and also Sniper, but Sniper more like in your late game, like once you have it already upgraded, once it's pretty good. But like for the early game, the best tower is Tesla to just stack a lot of kills. Bonus experience is again something like when you place a tower on top of it, all the enemies attacked or so damaged or destroyed are gonna give more experience to the tower than what they would gain normally. So that's again, it's a pretty simple concept. Rotation speed and projector speed, well, I'm going to increase the stats. Just remember, careful about placing a tower that doesn't have that stat right here. For example, like placing Minigun on projector speed. It doesn't have any projector speed, so you're not really gaining any benefit. Or like Sniper, or like any tower, right? It's the same as for like attack speed. Just place towers that can exploit the extra stat, right? The extra passive. And rotation speed as well. Like the rotation speed, to be honest, is one of those upgrades that once you have enough, like at least, I don't know, like 180 degrees per second, something like that, it's already more than enough to be able to follow the enemies, to rotate fast enough. And so like it's not really that useful. And finally, we have Soul Refund. Now, this one as well, it's not so useful because like most of the times you're gonna just place a tower and you're gonna just stick to it, right? Because the tower is going to like level up, you're going to be gaining the abilities, you're going to be spending coins in upgrading it. It's true that Soul Refund can actually get you back. So in case you upgrade the tower, right, and then you sell it, you can get back a lot of those coins that you spent upgrading it. Instead, for example, if I just place Sniper here, I wouldn't get as many of those coins. Well, in this case, I do because I have this base that already makes Tower Soul Refund to be 99%. So that's why here the sell price is the same. But normally like it would be less. But as I said before, because most of your towers are going to be placed and you're going to be sticking to them, like you're not going to sell them, this platform becomes not so important and not so useful. But again, in case you're already planning on placing a tower and then selling it for like quest purposes or for anything, then of course go for it, and you can get back a lot of the coins, and you can just keep, for example, something that I do when I have to complete quests spending a lot of coins, like is placing gauss, right? Then I sell it, then I place it again, I sell it, place it again, and I upgrade it, and then I sell it, and I just keep doing this process. And this can really help you to like minimize the amount of coins you lose, and at the same time make it count for the quest of like money spent on towers. So that's the only like useful thing that I can think about this platform. And that's it, guys, because that's how, you know, the stats work, how the towers, and how you can most efficiently use the platforms to boost your towers. And yeah, let me know if you have any more questions or any doubts. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and see you. Bye bye.